Millar's work is actually the first time that the Arthur Ross Gallery has ever invited a living artist to do a site-specific installation. It was a perfect occasion with Philagrafika to do this.
Philagrafika is one of the largest art events in the United States and the world's leading event regarding the presence of prints in contemporary art. Many people ask me, is this about prints or is it a print show? And I say no, it's rather about ideas that are behind the print media, like accessibility, multiplication, dissemination of knowledge, the idea of leaving an imprint. So those are the ideas behind Philagrafika. So you will find works that are not prints by any standard, but yet address ideas associated with print, like for example something that tackles how knowledge is disseminated in the public sphere.
What I found in Millar was this fascination with disrupting, if you will, the social flow of what sculpture should look like. He often does an intervention, and in this particular case with the exhibition Silence Dogood, he's taking a process based on newsprint and the dissemination of knowledge, which of course colleges and universities are all about, and doing, if you will, the antithetical process of a printing machine. It's all done by hand. It's all slow. The process is very much slowed down. It's a hand joining of individual pages, which will then be rolled and then create very much like the rings of a tree, and this is where I can show you this cross-section, if you will, of an image of a tree, which denotes both time and the monumentality of nature over man.
When Jose Roca first came to visit us at the Fine Arts Department last year, he was already discussing what was happening this year and really was already like, wow, this is exciting. I really want to be a part of something.
When you tape the papers together, we are creating a tape in a way. We're creating a roll of contiguous sheets that will be fed onto the cross-section, which will ultimately be able to read the rings 2 meters high. What does each sheet mean? Well, each sheet is important because it has to be put together right. It has to, because it can stop everything if it's wrong. It's important because it's part of the system.
We've been working, we'll go about 2 weeks working on this, and I know I try to put in a good 4 or 6 hours a day, so I'm not a math major, but it's a lot of hours. It's a long process, but it's fun, it's meditative, gluing paper and rolling it. These guys are working harder than I am right now, but...
I met Andres 3 years ago. He was a student when I asked for one assistant. His friend in the university. Andres is an artist too. He's a photographer, actually.
As I'm working with this and looking through, you can't help but read some of the articles over and over again. You know, the whole idea of that this paper was meaningful. You're observing time that's passed already. You know, I was just working on one stretch that had obituaries on it. And that, of course, you know, that becomes this whole other thing of like dead tree, dead people, you know, and what really, you know, what's really left? Where's the meaning?
So this is a really interesting concept to look at. Another aspect of material, transforming it and making it into, I guess, more sort of back to its original state.
I think Millar does a great job using materials, and it's something that has made me think more about that in terms of the idea of the work and the human interaction with the natural environment and how cultures view trees has been interesting to me.
Milar Lagos' work, at least to the way I see it, is about the nature of materials. He has done works where you have like balloons, those tinfoil balloons that are actually made of concrete. So they completely change the viewers' expectations about the material. And lately he's been interested in the relations between nature and culture and how paper is, as we all know but tend to forget, comes from wood. And so he has done many sculptural works based on newspapers that make you, for example, reflect on how many trees have been fallen to make that newspaper that you're holding in your hands and that will be trash the day after. In the piece that he's doing for the Arthur Ross Gallery, he's tackling yet another aspect of the printed media, which is the authority of the print, and how everything that is written down in print is printed, carries the authority of the institutions that are behind a newspaper, for example. So he will be doing two pieces. One is what looks as a cross-section of a gigantic log with the growth circles and all. And the other one seems to be like a large cube. But then when you turn around and see it from the other side, it looks like a throne, and in a way it's a commentary about the power of the press.
Silence Dogood was the title that Milar Lagos chose for this exhibition. And it was interesting, he mentioned to me that his first idea was about silence.
I don't know what is the translation for the people who saw some situation but have to keep silence.
People see things in a civilization or a culture and they're not allowed to speak about them publicly. Whereas the antithesis of that is a newspaper where we get to disseminate information with a particular slant and a particular point of view.
I was talking to Milar actually about the title of his show, and he asked me if I knew what the word for silence was in Spanish. And I assumed it would be silencio, which is the direct translation. But he views it really as the word intruso, which means intrusive, which he thought was a particularly interesting way to describe how Benjamin Franklin's moniker, his pseudonym, was relating to the show and how information sometimes can be very intrusive. And often people will read one word into a situation that isn't necessarily appropriate. So I thought that was a very interesting problem, and I look forward to working with Milar and crafting a statement we're both happy with.
The original vision for the Arthur Ross Gallery that was actually conceived and promoted by both Arthur Ross and our founding director, Dilys Weingrad, was to present art from all cultures and all different times of civilization, in fact, very much like the Rings of the Tree, that we would have perhaps an ancient art exhibition followed by medieval manuscripts, followed by a contemporary artist. It's certainly a vision that the Provost's office has today, and by the way, Silence Dogood, as well as being part of Philagrafika 2010, is also part of the Arts and City Year that is sponsored here at Penn this year.
I think we have succeeded in creating a buzz about Philagrafika, but still it's very difficult to know whether it's on people's consciousness or not. So I hope that after the opening, people will start talking about, this large biennial type event that is happening in Philadelphia that nobody can afford not to attend.
Oh, I finished one box.